I'm going to talk about a mild traumatic brain injury can be life-altering. I've handled these cases for a long time. I've learned a lot from a lot of people in the room handling these cases. I thought I would. Do I have the ability to advance the slides?
I'm sorry, sir?
How do I advance the slides?
Green.
Green? Ah.
There's the control thing back there.
The one that says next. That's pretty clever. Mild traumatic brain injury. I know that most of you probably at some point or another have handled a case like this. A lot of times they're called post-concussion syndrome. And these cases have gotten easier. And the reason they've gotten easier is because the public is starting to understand just how significant some of these cases can be. One of the big problems off the bat is the term mild. So I'm going to show you here in a minute. Mild really was coined by neurosurgeons to be a quick indication that the person that had the brain injury is not going to be in a life-threatening situation. That's really all that mild means to the medical profession. Unfortunately, the term mild to us means something that's not a big deal. I should say this to caution you, though. The fact is that most injuries that are labeled mild concussions or mild traumatic brain injuries, most people within 3 to 6 months do get better. Studies are, the most recent studies are maybe 7 or 8% are the miserable minority. These people don't get better. So what you need to understand, if you're going to pursue a case for someone with a diagnosis of a mild traumatic brain injury, chances are very good that the defense attorney and the claims adjuster are going to think this person really isn't hurt. Because after all, 95% get better. This is from a CDC. The couple sources that are in my PowerPoint that you should have in your office. The Center for Disease Control has a pamphlet. I think it's called Traumatic Brain Injury or Mild Traumatic Brain Injury. I have the site in my materials, but this is a quote directly from that. A concussion is a brain injury that alters the way your brain functions. The legislature this year is passing a law that student athletes at the high school level and their parents will have to be advised about concussions. And if they suffer a concussion in a game or in practice, that they have to actually be examined by someone who's trained in how to examine concussions before they're put back in the game. The genesis for that is the second injury syndrome, where kids go back into the game and they have the second concussion, which is catastrophic. And because now we know that that happens, that's why we have, Indiana has passed this law. This is the fact sheet I was referring to. It's called a it's called a fact sheet for student athletes put out by the CDC. It's become the text upon which these statutes are based. A concussion is a brain injury. This is really important. A lot of neuropsychologists, not to mention names, but Dr. Horn, for example. Dr. Horn's office is up at 103rd Meridian. He will testify, and he testified in a case I recently tried, that your client had a concussion. He did not have a brain injury. That used to be the thinking, and a lot of doctors still believe that. It's not true. One of the myths that you're going to run into if you handle these cases, particularly if you have big damages and you have the fortune of having some insurance coverage that justifies the time and expense, because these are difficult cases. But the first myth you're going to run into is what I talked about before, and that is the symptoms of all TBI cases resolve in 3 to 6 months. And therefore, because your client has memory problems and your client is depressed, and your client's not the same person they were, they must have psychiatric problems. or there's something else going on. It can't possibly be this minor accident where they went to the hospital and they were released within 3 hours. This is the website. It's in the materials. This is the fact sheet I've been talking about. And there's a lot, the CDC has a lot of different fact sheets on concussion. This is a really important statement that I referred to before. Doctors may describe these injuries as mild because concussions are usually not life-threatening. That's all that term means. Mild brain injury means not life-threatening. Unfortunately, that name is stuck, and so we're stuck with it as advocates for these people. And for some people, the symptoms can last for days, weeks, or longer. They can last indefinitely, and those are the cases that are the biggest challenge. New England Journal of Medicine, this is an article that you'll want to have available. You know what, if you don't have it available, you Google New England Journal of Medicine concussion, and this will pop up. Wonderful thing about the internet. But this article, in July of 2010, the NFL football teams, because of all the concussions these players have, they now have to have a locker room poster. And one of the things on the poster is the education that traumatic brain injuries can cause short or long-term changes affecting thinking, sensation, language, and emotions. The imaging, there's a lot of new imaging, and you could spend, you could have a seminar. In fact, there have been seminars put on about MRIs and Tesla 3 MRIs and PET scans and DTI, which is diffusion tension imaging. The main point of all of that is that the imaging still has not caught up with the injury in the sense that there are we literally have millions and millions of brain cells, and even the most sophisticated imaging technique does not get down to the cellular level. But what scientists have learned working with animals is that the reason we have these injuries, even when the person has nothing on the MRI, is because at the cellular level they have what's called axon shear. So this is an important concept you should understand. Write it down, and again, Google axon shear, and you'll get all kinds of things, including this type of image, which our office was able to use in a trial to explain. And what happens in a concussion is the axons are the long fibers that connect the brain cells together. Those fibers actually get cut, and they do not regenerate. And if you have enough of those fibers cut, you're going to have problems with your memory. If it happens in the frontal part of your brain, you're going to have problems with emotion. You're going to act out. You're going to be disinhibited. All the things you see with clients that have these injuries.